Hello guys, welcome to Aloha. I'm excited to show you around today. We're going to do a full demo of the Aloha system. My name is Tina. I'm a senior account executive here at Aloha. I would love to give you some high points today, and then if you ever want to meet and go over additional one-on-one questions or go deeper into any features, we would love to have you. I went ahead and shared my screen with you. I'm going to start us off on the very first screen with Aloha, which is your dashboard. So your dashboard is going to give you a lot of insight as to what's going on the inside of your system. So there's a lot of different points here of things that can slip through the cracks really easily that you can just highlight right when you log in. Every widget in the dashboard is customizable for permissions. So if you want a user to log in and see certain things, then you can always set those permissions accordingly. I'm going to point out a couple of widgets here that are really popular. We're going to start with your expiring qualifications widget. This is showing you any staff qualifications coming up on expiration in the next 30 days. You can track any sort of qualification here in your system, RET licenses, BCBA licenses, HIPAA training, CPR, safety care, anything like that. Next 30 days is default. You can look farther in the future if you'd like. 60 days, 90 days, and clicking on it will take you into a report for the information itself. You have a very similar widget for expiring authorization, so any auths coming up on expiration for your kiddos. Again, next 30 days is default, but you could always look ahead and click on it to take you into that report. There are a couple of billing widgets on your dashboard that are really helpful to see to give you an overall picture of what's happening with billing. Unbilled appointments is showing you any appointments that are ready to bill but haven't been sent to billing yet. So that means they have session notes, they've been rendered, but they haven't been yet submitted to the clearinghouse. This is really helpful to make sure that nothing is slipping through the cracks. Clicking on it will take you into the billing area to actually bill out these appointments. Aging report is a great overview of what's happening with billing each month. It's going to be showing you 2 bars, amount billed against your amount outstanding. Your amount outstanding will start to shrink as you get payments back into the system. So when we're looking at April here, I can see I'm getting paid for April, but not so much for May in this example. I can also see an overview by month of billing summary. This can be by bill date or by date of service. Sometimes those differ if you do a lot of back billing. Canceled appointment summary is showing you an overview of cancellations from month to month. Now your cancellation types here are totally customizable. These are just 3 super basic examples, but you can customize them as you would like to track. You can also run reports on these, and again, it's a great overview on your dashboard. Your bottom 3 widgets are giving you an overview of your own information. So what's going on in your day, your week. We also track mileage if you guys want to put in mileage over in your schedule. These bottom widgets are usually the widgets you would make visible for someone like a BT or an RBT if they're logging into the system, because they need to log in and see what's going on in their own schedule. That is going to be their high point, their dashboard, their overview screen. So this is your initial dashboard. What I want to do next is actually jump inside the site and talk a little bit about setup, and then we're going to go into the schedule and we'll go into billing today. What I'm going to start with is a staff profile. Every staff will have their own profile in the system. We'll pull up a sample staff for you here. For your staff members, you'll have all of their basic information in the system, but you can also build out additional demographics for them. So you can put in things like allergies or favorite treats or whatever additionally that you would like to track. You can pull reports on this, and it's really helpful to see right when you get into their profile. Clinical teams is going to be a way to group staff or clients together into some sort of team in your organization. You can also track supervisor or supervisors. Every staff will have a qualifications tab as well. This is where any qualifications that you would like to add in and track are going to live. This is what is going to trigger that expiring qualifications widget that we just saw on the dashboard. But you can also put in qualifications that don't expire. So if you want to note that you did a background check or that they have a specific certification or a specific degree, those things can also be stored in Aloha. You can put in certification files, notes, numbers, anything of that nature. These can be pulled on reports. They also do connect to your schedule to make sure you're scheduling for the right people for the right service. So if a specific service requires a qualification, then it'll take a peek at that staff member and alert you if they don't have that qualification that's required. You also have a pay rates area. This is your first step in getting us towards a payroll report. So in your pay rates, you can put in hourly rates, salaried rates. If you have multiple hourly rates, like we're seeing here as an example, you can title those how you wish. If someone gets a pay raise, you can always add that in and activate it for a certain date. This, again, is that first step in getting us towards a payroll report. We're going to see how this carries into our scheduled appointments when we get into the calendar. You also have a cabinet. Every profile has their own cabinet. And what a cabinet does is it's going to be a place for file storage. So any documents or files you can put into someone's cabinet, you can categorize them so that it's really helpful for searching purposes, but also you can make notes on them. You can set permissions so certain people can see certain things. Cabinets are going to be a really good way to keep files together in one place. And then your schedule will, of course, take you into the scheduling area for that person. We're going to jump into a schedule in just a bit. What I want to go to next is going to be your payer setup. Every payer is going to have their own profile in Aloha. We're going to look at an example of an insurance payer, but you can put in insurance and Medicaids, private pay, school districts, regional centers. So whatever sort of payer that you work with will have their own corresponding profile. For an insurance payer like we're looking at here, you're going to have a lot of additional information to put in so that we can bring it into your CMS 1500 billing form when we get into the billing area. So we're going to see a lot more things like modifiers and places of service for those insurance setups. For private pay, for school districts, for regional centers, you would have the according areas to set those up in the system as well so that we can get towards invoicing, which we'll talk about when we get into the billing area. For your payer, the first area is going to be your customized format type. Your customized format is going to be for those CMS 1500 payers. So is it a typical commercial insurance or does it have specific formats like Medicaid or TRICARE? That customized format will set our CMS 1500 form to auto-populate with those needs. In the services tab, this is going to be where your fee schedule lives. So all of your billing codes will have their own service, which is broken up in these little cards. So if we're looking at direct service as a card here, you can name it whatever you want. So if you call it direct service or behavior therapy, you can customize that name. But underneath is going to be your billing code, your rates. We do track contract and charge rates, your unit size and rounding rules, any modifiers with that corresponding code. You also can put in those minimum qualifications for your staff for that service for that payer. So if a specific payer requires an RBT versus a BT, that's a great way to put that in so that you're scheduling with the right person that is working with that payer. In this area as well, I like to point out that unit size for 15 minutes is pretty common for ABA, but when you are building out those other payer types like a school district or private pay, your unit sizes will probably differ. So you're able to customize that unit size when you are adding in services for other payers. With your insurance payers as well, there is a billing rules section. This is going to be helpful to really nail down what your payer specifics are. So things like concurrent versus non-concurrent billing, any sort of appointment or claim settings. You also have modifier defaults. So that would be qualification modifiers or place of service modifiers. For qualification modifiers, we went ahead and put in like a good sample one here, but this does differ from payer to payer for those H codes. So when you have those H modifiers, you can correspond which qualification will trigger that modifier to auto pool. This way, you're not having to manually add in all of these modifiers when you get into the billing area. It just automatically pools based on the staff you're scheduling with. Same thing goes for place of service. A lot of the times that's for telehealth modifiers, but you can set those up in your billing rules. So again, you're not having to automatically put in all of the modifiers after the scheduling level. Your payer also does have a cabinet, which is going to be a great spot for contracts, a great spot for fee schedules, or just general storage. We're going to get into a client's profile next. A client's profile is going to be where authorizations and basic demographics are housed. So with our one client, we're going to be looking at Joey. Again, it's going to look very similar to your staff profiles in the beginning, basic demographics, and then they also have their custom fields section as well. So again, custom fields is totally customizable to what you need to see and track here. Maybe you're tracking medications, who can pick up the child, any allergies that they have, etc. You can build this out as you need. Again, reports can be ran on this, or you can just see it when you get into their profile. You have a contacts card also. This is going to be any client contacts in relation to your kiddo, family, guardian, school teachers. You can add in any relationship. We do have portal access, which allows that client contact to log in, view their child's schedule. They can also view outstanding balances for that child and make payments towards those balances if you would like them to. We do that through a Stripe integration. So Stripe is the credit card processor for them to put in a credit card and make a payment. You also have client assignments. You can assign staff to a child's caseload. You can also group them into teams within your organization. The next area is your authorization. So this is where policy information will go and authorization information. In your authorization, this is a sample one for a specific auth number with multiple services underneath. So auth number is going to go at the top. Date range tells us when we can schedule for that service. Service name is going to get pulled inside. This pulls behind all of the billing setup that we saw in that payer area. So I see direct service here, but behind it is the billing code, the rates, the modifiers, etc. You'll be able to set your allowed limit here, which is going to be used to track utilization. We're going to see utilization over in the scheduling area. You also have some defaults to set yourself up for billing. So these defaults are used for insurance and Medicaid payers. If you do have that private pay, school district, regional centers, you wouldn't have these defaults because they're not needed. With your allowed limit as well, I like to mention here, units per auth is super common for those insurance and Medicaid payers, but if you do have other payer types, you're able to differentiate those allowed limits based on how you need to track them. So if you prefer to see hours a week or minutes a day or hours a month, you're able to put those in and track them accordingly. If I scroll down, my next service is going to be built out the exact same way. I also am able to upload my authorization file here, which is really helpful because you just look in, you can download your file, everything is all in one spot. Your clients also do have a cabinet. It's going to work the same as what we saw for staff and payer cabinets. It's a file storage area. Next, we're going to get into our schedule. So I can jump to my schedule through any profile, or I can go to it through my scheduling tab on the left. I went ahead and pulled a sample schedule. This is for one staff member at a week perspective. Over on the left-hand side are going to be all of my types of appointments that I'm seeing. So we have a lot of different icons here. For my one staff, a billable appointment is going to look like this. Break time or lunch times are a coffee cup. Non-billable times, a blank clipboard. This is usually things like trainings, onboardings, meetings. I also can track drive time and mileage in the system, which is my car icon. Over on the right, you have your status bubbles, which lets you know if the appointments are completed or not. Completed is filled in, and open circle means not completed. We're going to talk about what completes an appointment when we get inside the appointment. For my billable appointment, I can also single click on it and see utilization. So this appointment is Joey's direct service appointment. For Joey for direct service, he has 1,200 total units in his auth. Of that total auth, you can see the breakdown, what's scheduled versus not. Of those that are scheduled, what's completed versus not. Let's talk about what actually completes this billable appointment. So this example is completed. When you are thinking of completing an appointment, it is dependent on what you're doing for data collection. So Aloha does have multiple different clinical integration partners. So if you want to go the electronic data collection route, I recommend going with one of our partnerships. We partner with Hirasmus, we partner with Insora, which was previously Catalyst, and we partner with Motivity. So if you are using one of those 3 clinical partnerships, how that integration will work from the Aloha side is your scheduling is done on Aloha. Once you schedule a billable appointment, it will then push into the the clinical system automatically. In the clinical system, your billable appointments have came over, you select the appointment you're in, you take your data, you create your session note, you collect all of your signatures. Once everything is done with the session note, it's going to pull that information back into Aloha so we can bill for it. So times will sync with the session note. It auto completes the appointment, which is what fills in that status bubble and lets us know we can bill. It also pulls over the signatures from the session note. And it pulls over a session note URL link so that I can click on the link and it opens up the session note for this appointment. All of that is going to happen in real time. So it's a real-time two-way sync. To reiterate here, this start and end time is syncing with the session note. I like to reiterate this because sometimes people show up late or leave early or extend their sessions. If that's the case, then whatever time gets verified on the session note comes back into Aloha so that you bill what the session note reflects. And that is, of course, super important in case of an audit. So that is your one option, is using electronic data collection system and integrating that into Aloha. If you are using paper pencil data, then you're able to do a session note in Aloha. That is going to be through your Documents tab. You're able to create templates, complete session notes, and attach them to your Aloha appointment. And then coming into your verification tab is more manual. You can add your signatures, staff and client if you prefer, verify your times, and mark it as complete. So those are your two different options based on what you're doing for clinical. That is going to be your billable appointments and how they are completed. There are a couple of other tabs here I like to point out for your billable appointments. The billable tab is everything that is collecting for billing. So places of service that were defaulted, your modifiers that automatically pull in, etc. Supervision tab is going to be a way to track RBT supervision per the BACB requirements. How this works is your supervisor is your BCBA. They're going to add the RBT in the add staff section. It tracks the overlap of the RBT's appointment to the BCBA's appointment. You can run supervision logs in Aloha and see where you're at with that 5% requirement for the BACB for the month. So that is automatically going to come from your supervision tabs. With your billable appointments, you have, again, that icon here, that completed bubble, and that utilization. So that is going to be the conclusion of how billable appointments look on your Aloha system. Now, as I mentioned, we do have other appointment types here as well. We have non-billable appointments. You can put in your requirements to complete a non-billable appointment on Aloha. If you want to collect signatures or verify times, you can do that. And then for your drive time and mileage appointments, these are going to be for anyone that is traveling around and needs to track these things for payroll purposes. You can track both mileage and drive time, or just one or the other. It's totally dependent on what your company needs. In your drive time appointments, if I were to track mileage, I would be putting in my starting and destination points. These do automatically populate based on my surrounding appointments. So you can see I just selected from them from the drop down. It's based on what happened before and what happened after the appointment. We have a Google Maps integration. So when I hit refresh, it gives me the distance in miles between these 2 points. This is going to be what's pulled into your payroll report and tracks the mileage. So you'll be putting in your mileage reimbursement rate, and it automatically pulls all of the distance fields to your payroll report for that. If you're tracking drive time itself, that's going to come from your start and end time at the top. Your start and end time will then correlate with whatever earning code that you set in the verification tab. So if you do have a different drive time rate, Aloha will preset your system for you in your onboarding process so that it automatically pulls the drive time rate for any drive time appointment. So that makes it really easy. Now let's say though, I only track mileage, I don't track drive time. If that's the case, we can always preset it as a no pay appointment. That way you're only tracking the mileage area, that distance field, and it's not actually pulling the appointment times into payroll. So it's based on setup as to how you would be tracking those things. A couple of other scheduling features here. We have a schedule summary button, shows you total payroll versus billable hours for the week for that staff member. This is really helpful if you are needing to see billable versus non-billable time, or you're trying to hit a certain number of hours for a part-time employee. You also have a lot of different scheduling views here. So a day view is going to zoom in. Week view we're just looking at. A month view zooms out. With your month, your schedule summary does follow you along as well. So again, billable versus non-billable tracking is really helpful there from a zoom out perspective. You also have something called a timeline view. So a timeline view is going to stack people on top of each other. You can pull in individual staff or clients to this view, but you can also pull in teams of people. Teams are going to be created by your organization. So a lot of people will do caseload teams, region teams, office teams, all BCBA teams, anything of that nature. You can create a team, customizable, and then all of those people will be pulled in when you select that team name. So that's going to be what your timeline view looks like. This is really helpful for seeing where there's gaps. So I can schedule somebody in that gap. It's also helpful just to see where everybody is for that time period. Okay, so that's going to be your schedule area. We're going to jump into billing next. Once your appointments have been completed, that lets us know we're ready to bill. First area we're going to go into is our billing manager screen. Billing manager is going to be where we scrub our information before we send it to a payer. So in my billing manager screen, I'm going to select my payer and my date range. When I hit generate, all of my unbilled appointments will populate. So these are those appointments that are completed in my schedule, so they have a session note, but they haven't been sent to the clearinghouse yet. In this area, Aloha does do a pre-scrub for you that's seen through these checkboxes on the left. Green means great, nothing's missing. Orange means that something is missing in Aloha's pre-scrub. You can hover over it and it tells you what's missing on the hover. So in this area, my rendering provider has to be added in. Now, if I did submit this, it would obviously auto reject. So it's saving you some of that headache early on by Aloha doing that pre-scrub. I'm going to update my rendering provider here. Once that's been updated, it's going to go to a green checkbox because nothing's missing. Just like you saw me add in that rendering provider, anything in blue text is something I can change or adjust at this level. I can also bulk update multiple appointments if I would like to. But this is collecting everything based on the setup of your system. So what did you put into the payer, the fee schedule? What did you put into the authorization? What happened in your schedule? All of that is going to be pulled into your scrubbing screen. Once you feel comfortable with all the information here, all you do to bill are select the appointments and click Process Billing. This will pull it into a claim form and send it to the clearinghouse. The clearinghouses that we integrate with are Office Ally and Availity. So based on the clearinghouse that you chose to integrate into Aloha, by clicking Process Billing, this will send it right to that clearinghouse. And that is going to be how you send your claims. Once you have sent your claims, then the claims will be sitting in the AR Manager section. AR Manager is going to be a breakdown of all of your payers and their outstanding balances, broken up based on how long it's been since you've billed. So I have my payers, my balances, and my breakup in these columns in the center. I'm able to click into any balance to see more information on what makes up that balance. Inside that balance, I have a list of claims that make up that balance. It gives me the good breakdown here as well. Let's say I'm calling and checking on a claim. I can click my clock tool. All the claim information is located at the top. This claim information is helpful because let's say I'm on the phone with a payer. They're going to ask me these questions to help locate the claim. I can just refer right to the screen so I can read off any of those answers. At the bottom, there's a transaction log. The transaction log automatically notes anything that happened to the claim in Aloha. So who billed it, what time, have I posted payments towards it? But it's also a spot for me to add myself manual notes. So I can go in and say, I talked to this person. These are the reference numbers they gave me. This is what they said. That way, anytime I go back or anybody that's involved in billing goes back and looks at this claim, they can see when it was last touched and by who. Inside the claim as well, if I were to click into it again, are the charge lines that make up that claim. So these are the lines that are outstanding on that claim form. Once I get paid, that's where my payment center will come in. In my payment center, my ERAs will automatically pull in from the clearinghouse. When I have a new ERA, it'll show up here. I'll be able to select it and view it in Aloha. And then at the very bottom of my screen, I'll have an auto post button. Auto posting an ERA means that the system will automatically match up what was paid to build line by line of that ERA. It also transfers client responsibility as appropriate. So any copays, coinsurance, deductibles will transfer over to the client balance in that auto post. We auto post about 85% of ERAs. So majority of the time it comes in, you click auto post, you're done. If anything requires manual posting, it'll let you know and auto post what it can. You also in this area have the ability to manually post a payment and match it to what is outstanding. This is very helpful if you have someone hand you a check, maybe it's a deductible check, or if you're working with those other payer types. So back into school districts or private pay or regional centers, they're probably giving you monthly checks or so. You can come in and apply those as they pay you. With those other invoices, you also can generate the formal invoice themselves in Aloha that's coming from the numbers that are happening within your schedule. So you can generate school district invoices, private pay or super bills. You can also generate any client responsibility invoices if you'd like. Also, we have verification forms for regional centers. So all of these can automatically be generated. You can download them and send them off to that appropriate payer. And then again, when they pay you, you come in and manually post. In this area as well, I like to mention a couple of other of these billing fields. We do have secondary electronic billing through Office Ally, so we're able to do that in the Aloha system. You can also correct a claim and rebill in the Aloha system as well. Okay, so that's going to be your billing area. The next area is going to be your payroll section. So we can generate a payroll report in Aloha, which essentially gives you the numbers to plug into a payroll processor. When you do generate a payroll report, Aloha system will take you through a series of prompts to give you these numbers. So it's going to alert you who hasn't submitted any session notes. Maybe you have an incomplete appointment. It's going to tell you if there's any appointments outside of this payroll period. It's essentially giving you all of the information based on what could affect these numbers. Once you have that informed information, it lands you on this payroll report to use to plug into your payroll processor. So on your payroll report, your staff are listed on the left, total amounts are on the right. Everything is broken up in the center based on any pay rates that your staff has. So if your staff has multiple different earning codes, this is a great example of that. You'd be able to name them what you would like. This one also does show mileage. If you guys are tracking mileage, you'll be able to customize the reimbursement rate for that mile. You also can add in hourly employees, salaried employees, etc. And this will give them all to you in one report. Again, you can download this and then you can plug it into your payroll processor. Also, we do have certain number of exports for payroll processors. So if your payroll processor does allow for an export, then we'd be able to map that staff member ID from your payroll processor into your Aloha system. That way, when you generate a payroll report, you can download and upload into the payroll processor. So that makes it really easy. The exports that we have for payroll are with the following here. So we have a couple of ADP exports, Workforce Now Next Generation and Workforce. We have Gusto, Heartland, iSolved, Payroll Network, Paychex Flex, Paylocity, and Simplicity. With your payroll as well, we do have a timesheet feature. Timesheets is totally optional, but if you want your staff to go in and submit their time for a given time period, that could be weekly or daily, depending on how often you want them to submit a timesheet. Then when they select the date they want to submit it by, you can see how many completed and incompleted appointments they have. It doesn't let them submit a timesheet. You can see my save button's grayed out unless I go in and complete all incomplete appointments. This is going to be really helpful if you have staff that maybe aren't completing session notes or if they're forgetting about completing non-billable appointments or drive time. It essentially is triggering them, hey, I have to go in and do something more to be able to submit my time. The next area of your site is your reports. Your reports are going to correlate with everything that you have in the system. So we have a lot of different profile reports. You can pull it on qualifications, authorizations. You can pull your fee schedules. You can pull utilization for auths. You can pull any of your basic demographics or custom fields. We also have reports for scheduling, cancellation reports, full appointment list reports for staff, for clients, for both. You can also pull all of your billing reports here. So what did I bill in the last month? What is ready to bill in the next month? What AR do I have that's outstanding? You can see payments and what payments you got in a certain time frame. All of this information that you have in the system have corresponding reports. All of your reports can be viewed in Aloha at any time, or they can be exported to Excel at any point. If you decide to export it to Excel, then you are able to do that whenever. So we don't limit you how often you get to take your data out. If you ever needed to manipulate it and export it out, you have the ability to. That is going to complete the demo of the Aloha system. I want to talk a little bit about onboarding and setup. Onboarding for Aloha is very hands-on. You will be assigned to a customer success manager. That customer success manager will help you onboard your entire system. So they're going to be meeting with you through weekly calls, and they're going to be very structured, walking you through every point of setup as you get into your new system. It is very hands-on. That person is going to be with you throughout your entire journey of Aloha as well. So even after your onboarding is complete, if you needed them later, you always have access to their calendar. We also have a full support team. You can submit support tickets or you can call our support line. So there's a lot of different options for onboarding and support. We do not charge for any additional onboarding or support. So we're very, very flexible with that. And we get really praised in the industry for our onboarding. That is going to conclude our demo for today. If you guys have any questions, please reach out to us. We'd love to dive in further with your organization.